Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blue, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So Jordan Schultz, a reporter, insider for the NFL, reported earlier today, and it caused a bit of a media firestorm, that Washington Commanders running back Antonio Gibson was on the trading block, essentially. He said that Washington was, quote unquote, listening to offers. Now, Ron Rivera came out at his press conference today and pretty much shot down any notion of Antonio Gibson even being, bandied about, talked about in any capacity of a trade. Like it sounded like it was a total farce to him, and he was incredulous. So essentially, Jordan Schultz put out a series of tweets, and the lie detector test determined that that was a lie. Now, here's the thing about these types of rumors, right? What Jordan Schultz said and what Ron Rivera said can both be true. Because if you're being technical, sure. Ron said at the end of his statement in regards to Antonio Gibson, when he, talked about how upset they were and how he found out about these rumors, and they're going to talk to Antonio Gibson and let him know that they had no intentions of trading him, don't know where that report came from, all that good stuff. At the very end of that comment, he said, unless someone makes a ridiculous offer, right? Something crazy that you just can't refuse. Well, how do you know if someone's making that offer if you're not listening, right? Essentially, if you're not entertaining a trade on a player for Washington, i.e. Jonathan Allen, the phone rings and it's the Bears GM Ryan Poles on the other end. And he says, "Hey, Martin, how you doing?" And Martin's like, "I'm doing good, man. How you doing?" Seen better days, but hey, what can you do? Listen, I was wondering if, you guys were interested in moving Jonathan Allen. And Martin Mayhew's like, "Bro, come on. Seriously? We just signed a guy to an extension not too long ago. This guy's an all-pro type player. We're not interested. We'll give you 3 first-round picks. We're not interested." That means you're not listening. 3 first-round picks for Jonathan Allen, you'd do that in a heartbeat. No one's offering that, but you're not even listening to that. You don't want to hear it because you're not trading the guy. However, if that same phone call happens from the Chicago Bears and they ask about Antonio Gibson and they say, "Hey, we'll give you a first and a fourth," you're like, for Antonio Gibson? Let me get back to you on that. And they run it by the rest of the staff, and they're like, "Hell yeah, do it." So you would actually be listening. Now, again, no one's offering a first and a fourth for Antonio Gibson. That was a hypothetical situation. Essentially what I'm saying is, if you're not listening to, calls on any player or a specific guy, then you don't even get to the point where an offer is even made. You shoo that away. So could there have been a conversation or two with teams calling and Washington telling them they weren't interested, in the team, throwing out a random pick that Washington wasn't interested in and they hung up the phone? Sure. That doesn't mean Washington is listening to offers. They're not interested, but technically they were listening to offers. They just weren't interested in any of them. At the end of the day, I don't think they were ever interested in trading Antonio Gibson. I'm with Ron 110% on this one. They weren't looking to trade Antonio Gibson. Look, I've said this already. Ron Rivera, I don't think is coaching for his job. However, another losing season or another disappointing outcome doesn't go a long way to him keeping his job here in Washington long term. He's got to start winning some football games. 7-9 the first year, 7-10 the second year. This is the year where everyone's looking for them to turn things around. He's kind of trying to push back expectations, but the truth of the matter is they need to win. You get another 7-win campaign this year, and you're going into the season next year on the hottest of hot seats. He'll be one of the guys that will be leading in Vegas as a candidate to be the first fired if you win 7 games again. Antonio Gibson is such a huge part of this team. He returns kickoffs, he's a running back, and he's a receiver. You saw the versatility last week on full display. You're trying to win football games with a quarterback position that's less than ideal. You need the running game, and you need running backs to step up. Gibson is one of those guys that can do it. We saw it last year during the 4-game win streak. He carried this team. Antonio Gibson's not going anywhere. And I don't think Washington was ever looking to trade him. Ron even went as far as to say they're not looking to move any of their guys. I still find that hard to believe because I think they would love to move William Jackson III, but I don't think they will. And when's the last time this team's made a deadline deal of any sort? I can't even remember. It's not something that Washington does, and they've had opportunities, but that was with Bruce Allen, so we don't need to talk about that. The bottom line is, since Ron has gotten here, there hasn't been a peep out of this team during the trade deadline. It's came and it's went, and Washington has been radio silent. I expect that to continue this year, even though I think they would love nothing more than to move William Jackson III. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. So, I just wanted to, throw this out there that maybe Schultz heard that a couple of teams contacted him, or people with, that were close to the source, or, had insider information, said, hey, yeah, we contacted Washington about Antonio Gibson. Doesn't mean Washington was interested, but they called. Washington didn't hang up the phone immediately, so they were technically listening. They were never, and Schultz did go on to say that Washington would prefer to keep Antonio Gibson unless there's some type of blockbuster deal. They're going to probably hold on to him. But just the fact that he threw that out there, and to Ron's credit, and this is what social media has done, because a guy like Jordan Schultz, you, me, and everybody else, we don't even know who the hell this guy is. And I'm going to go back to not knowing who he is after this whole situation blows over, because I don't care. But this is how you get your name out there. This is how you get your weight up, by putting a story out there, a report out there, and having it gain traction, having people talk about it, having people like myself throw your name out there. This is what you do in the social media age and era that we're in. That's how you move the needle. It sucks, like Ron said, because as a coach, as a leader, you want to be able to go to a guy if you're trading him, if you're thinking about trading him. You want to be able to go to that guy, sit him down, and talk to him man to man and say, hey, here's the situation. Here's what we're thinking. And, here's the direction that we're looking to go in. He even mentioned cut down day. He's like, with the way social media, and look, these guys have jobs to do. These ladies and gentlemen have jobs to do. So you can't be upset when John Keim gets word that the team's going to cut Troy Apke. He's going to report that the team's going to cut Troy Apke, even if Ron hasn't had a chance to talk to Troy Apke. Because you got to be out there first with it. Or at least that's your goal. Because you work for an entity. And that entity wants their name out there. And if you're doing a hell of a job, their name is going to be attached to your name. So, at the end of the day, I think Jordan Schultz works for the Score, whatever the hell that is. He had a tweet, then another tweet, then another tweet about Antonio Gibson. It's, to me, going down a path to nowhere, because Antonio Gibson isn't going anywhere. And I don't think it's something that we really need to discuss any further. Had this team been 1-6 right now, you're damn right Antonio Gibson would be a name that would be floating around. We're 3-4 with a chance to get back to 500. Do you really think Ron Rivera is going to trade the guy that I just said? And Rivera and company may not feel this way, but I feel this way. And the fact that this is even a discussion lets you know he's in the conversation, even if you don't agree with me. I just said this is the most talented player on this roster, the entire roster. You think he's going to trade this guy when they're trying to make a move to make the postseason in what is all of a sudden the most wide open NFC we may have ever seen? There's no dominant team in this conference unless you want to point to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't think the Eagles are dominant. Not yet, at least. They may actually turn out to be a juggernaut by the time the end of the regular season hits. And we may find ourselves saying, who the hell is going to beat that Eagles team? Right now, I don't see that. This thing is wide ass open. You think Ron's going to trade a guy that could potentially be his best player? Highly unlikely. Especially when the quarterback position is unsettled. You definitely need guys like Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas. You need supporting cast members to take whomever's at quarterback and make them look much better than they really are. Or at least help them out. Anyway, long story short, Antonio Gibson isn't going anywhere. In other news, Ron Rivera spoke, and that was one of the things he spoke about today, in addition to a number of other things that made me very, very uneasy. We'll talk about those things. As a matter of fact, let's get to them right now as we jump into. Let's start with Sadiq Charles. So we talked about Sadiq being out the first 2 days of the week with an illness. It was some type of upper respiratory illness because and Ron made it seem like it was bronchitis or something. Anybody who's ever had it knows it's no joke. And he said he lost weight as well. Ron even questioned would he be able to dress in this game. So that questionable is legit. They'll see how Sadiq's feeling, but the real issue here is that Sadiq's not starting. Whether he's active or not is another story. He may not be active altogether, but Sadiq isn't starting in this game. Ron pretty much told us he's going back to Trey Turner. That made me vomit in my mouth. Now, Ron gave me, and I knew he was going to try to pull this shit at some point, and all he was looking for was an opportunity. Because when he went out of his way to talk us to death about how Trey Turner, he went to Trey Turner and told him that, hey, we need you to get right because we're going to need you later on in the season, this, that, and the third. I knew he wanted his guy back in there. He wants to prove that he was right about Andrew Norwell and Trey Turner. And so now he's saying Trey looks good. He looks like the old Trey Turner. He looks athletic again. He looks stout again. I don't buy it. I'm not going to believe it until I see it. He looked like absolute hot-ass garbage the first 3 weeks of the season before he was benched against Dallas in the first quarter. And he may have been dealing with that quad still. I don't care. The previous two teams decided that guy wasn't good enough. And so I don't trust him. And Ron's essentially telling us, oh, yeah, he's going back to right guard. And that could be a permanent fix. Sadiq could be out of the mix again. Not that Sadiq was a world beater. I don't want to sit here and make it seem like Sadiq Charles was the next coming of Brandon Sheriff. Because he wasn't. But still, I know one thing. Trey Turner was hot ass at the beginning of the season. And you're trying to convince me that he's not. And we just felt like the offensive line was starting to have a little bit of continuity. And they were starting to play with a semblance of pride. We'll say. And now you're telling me that one of the guys that made this offensive line look like one of the worst in football is going to be starting again at right guard, and I'm supposed to be okay with that? I'm not. Jahan Dotson, we knew he wasn't going to play. He's out. Cole Holcomb, we were praying that he'd be able to go. He's out. Ron did say that Cole Holcomb made progress throughout the course of the week, but it wasn't enough for them to feel comfortable putting him on the field. And they're thinking long term, like you put him out there in this game, he makes it worse, exacerbates the foot, and all of a sudden he could be on IR. Like, they're trying to avoid that. Give him this week off, and hope that you can get him back for the Minnesota game next week. And so that's the hope. In the meantime, I mentioned this yesterday. Um, it's going to be either a glob of mayo or John Bombastic. Either way, we're screwed. Either way, we're screwed. So the hope is that Jamin Davis slides over to Cole's spot and they're able to play with another safety or something. And we can keep the linebackers pretty much off the field other than Jamin Davis. That's the hope. This was the fear. This was the biggest fear of all Commanders fans going into the season, is that anything happened to the corners or anything happened to the linebackers, one injury would put us in this exact predicament. I'm actually amazed that we made it this far into the season without having to incur one of these, hurdles. I'm shocked it took us 7 weeks into the season, 8 weeks if you're counting this week, to have to make a decision at linebacker. He's not playing. William Jackson III not playing. Cole Turner, we knew he wasn't going to play with the concussion. He's out. De'Ami Brown, here's where things get interesting. Jonathan Williams, Sam Cosmi, Taylor Heineke, and Jonathan Allen all going to play in the game. Those guys were never really, maybe except for Jonathan Williams, weren't quite sure. He was limited most of the week. But Cosmi, let's talk about him real quick. Ron talked about Sam Cosmi and his finger, and he said he's still got that club on his hand. And they're not really comfortable putting him in the game with that club yet, if they don't have to. Like, he's going to be active just like he was last week. And if they need him, they can put him in the game just like last week if they need him. He was an emergency offensive lineman. But their hope is that they don't have to put him in the game. And so he'll be active. He'll be ready to go if they need him, if they call his number. But the hope is that they'll be able to get through the game with Cornelius Lucas. And then I think Ron feels confident that they may be able to remove the club next week, or at least, tape the finger that is, compromised to another finger and have him have, hand mobility and grip strength and the ability to grab, which is a huge part of being an offensive lineman. So no Cosmi in the lineup this week. There was this prevailing thought by some that, hey, they're going to bring Sam Cosmi back, and not only are they going to bring him back, with Sadiq Charles potentially being out, they're going to throw him in at guard. I never bought that. I was like, I don't think they're going to do that. They see him as a tackle. They don't really want to, experiment with that unless they have to. I think the thing they want to do is stick him back where they think he ultimately is going to be for a very long time, which is right tackle. So maybe even go over to left tackle at some point down the road. But right now he's a right tackle, and I think they want to keep him there. De'Ami Brown, groin, I still think he's going to be out, but he's questionable. Logan Thomas, calf, I still think he's going to be out, but he's questionable. He was very close to playing last week, so, maybe he can go this week, but I'm not holding my breath for either one of those two offensive weapons. I'm thinking week 9, I'm circling that on the calendar against Minnesota. I'm thinking we're going to get a shit ton of guys back. Chase Young's going to be back. Jahan Dotson may be back. Cole Turner may be back. De'Ami Brown may be back. Logan Thomas may be back. Cole Holcomb may be back. I mean, week 9, Sam Cosmi could be back in the lineup in week 9. I mean, it could get real scary in week 9 for the Minnesota Vikings all at once. But we got to find a way to get through this game against the Indianapolis Colts. We got some guys out. And I think we're going to have more out in De'Ami Brown and Logan Thomas. But we will see. Now on to the Indianapolis Colts. And it's amazing that their list looks just as long, if not longer than ours. But the reality of this list is only 3 guys are out. So Kwity Paye, we knew he was going to be out. He had a ugly ankle injury earlier in the season, and they feared that he might be done for the year, but he wasn't. But he's out for an extended period of time. Matt Ryan, we already knew he wasn't playing, and so that doesn't really impact us. Grant Stewart, linebacker, pec injury, again, doesn't really impact us. More of a special teams guy. Every single guy other than the 3 I just mentioned don't have designations, meaning their game status isn't up in the air. They're playing, except for Kenny Moore, the corner, which he's questionable with a finger. I assume he's going to play. And he just showed up on the injury report on Friday as a limited participant. He's playing in the game, man. Like, now, I will say this. I was reading up on the Colts website that Shaq Leonard, who's going to be playing in this game, back for the first time in over a month, is going to be on a pitch count. So take it with a grain of salt. Teams say that, they get in the heat of the moment. It's a winnable football game. And a guy that was, I mean, we did it with Logan Thomas in week 1. They wanted Logan on a pitch count. We had a game that was there in the balance, and they thought they could win it. And Logan went from probably supposed to play 25 snaps to playing like 35, 40 snaps in that week 1 win over Jacksonville. So, yeah, it's easy to go into the game saying, oh, yeah, we got Shaq. This isn't baseball. There isn't a set number of, pitches that you're going to let a guy throw, and then you say, hey, no matter what, he's coming out. This is football. You get in the heat of the battle. You tell yourself going into this isn't a preseason game. Where we had, Chase Roulier on a pitch count against Kansas City. Yeah, he's 15 snaps. As soon as we get to 15, he's out, no matter what. Could be in the middle of a drive, he's coming out. This is a regular season game. And they could tell themselves, hey, 20 snaps for Shaq Leonard. Pick them, choose them wisely. They get into the game, he's moving around well, and they got a chance to win. To hell with the pitch count. Get out there and make a play for us. I'm assuming that he's just going to play as many plays as they feel like he needs to play to help them win. That's my thought process with him. So anyway, in any event, in other news, Ron said a number of things, most of them what I told you from a health standpoint. He addressed the Antonio Gibson rumors. He addressed the injury situation of multiple players, Cole Holcomb, Jahan Dotson, Trey Turner, being back in the lineup because of Sadiq Charles' illness. Talked about the linebacker position and what they'll do, essentially. Talked about a number of things. So talked about Carson, who was back on the practice field today, off on the side field, getting in a little bit of shoulder work, gripping some balls at the same time, pause. So yeah, he talked about, his morale being up and, him, still being like, I fully expect them to give the reins of this team back over to Carson Wentz. And I'm almost feeling like no matter what. Now, again, I think it's a fluid situation. If Heineke's 4-0, this offense is humming. I don't know if they make the switch, but I'm telling you, all Heineke has to do is lose a game and they're going back to Carson. That's it. I don't think there's a margin of error for him. I think they want to prove themselves right, that Carson was the right decision. And I think in their minds, if they can fix the running situation and the offensive line, they feel like Carson can come in and be better than he was before the injury. So I'm just telling you what I think they are thinking. But it's a fluid situation, and it could change at any time. So here's another audition for Taylor Heineke to make his case to be the starting quarterback for this team for the remainder of the season. Let's see what he does with that audition. But we'll go ahead and start talking about this game plan and what it'll take for Washington to go to Indianapolis and beat the Colts for the first time since 2002. So many of you eloquently pointed that out to me with a clip from SportsCenter that was on a YouTube channel with Shane Matthews at quarterback throwing a touchdown to his former college teammate, Chris During. Obviously, Steve Spurrier, the old ball coach, was the coach of the team then, and Fred Smoot with one of the big plays of the game, knocking down a pass on a 2-point conversion to preserve the victory for Washington in that ball game over the Indianapolis Colts led by Peyton Manning, a young Peyton Manning. Anyway, that's a long time, guys. That's a long time ago. All right. We got to find a way to win this game. And it's going to take a number of different things to happen for Washington to win. I'm actually shocked at how many fans are looking at this game as a layup. I'm actually appalled. I'm shocked because I'm like, haven't we not learned our lessons yet? This game feels eerily similar to another game that we played this season that we went into. I tried to warn everyone. We went into the game talking about that place being a house of horrors, how we hadn't won there in an eternity, how that team had really played well against us, in Detroit in particular. Yeah, I'm talking about week 2 against the Detroit Lions. You come off of a win where the offense plays well. You're excited about what you were able to do. You're thinking, hey, this next team is in trouble. We're going to go into their place and we're going to beat them up good, come out with a dub and keep it pushing. And we went into Detroit, got our asses ambushed. We're down 22-0 at halftime. Woke the hell up in the second half, but it was too little too late. And we lose that game 36-27. This feels just like that game. Overconfident, Now, the Lions didn't have a first-time starter at quarterback, but still feels the same to me. Overconfident on the road in a place that we haven't won in an eternity, and you're expecting that opposition, the ops, to lay down for you, and you go in there and take care of business. When do we ever do that? We don't. And so I'm going to tell you right now, I'm nervous as hell about this game. I don't feel good about this game. I feel uneasy about this game. And then you tell me there's no Cole Holcomb. Then you tell me that Trey Turner's starting at guard. Then you tell me, hey, we might get some John Boone Bostic, or you may get a glob of David Mayo. And I'm looking around, I'm saying, you guys are okay with this? You guys think this is the team that's going to walk into Indianapolis, stomp a mud hole in the Colts, and come out victorious? That's not what I think is going to happen. But how do you make that happen? Number one, you've got to stop Jonathan Taylor, okay? The thing you have to know is that they're not going to try and put the very first game that he starts, he being Sam Ehlinger, they're not going to try to put the game on his shoulders. They're not going to do that. They're not going to ask him to go into this game and throw it 38 times. Unless they absolutely have to. But they don't want to. They want to hand it to Jonathan Taylor. They want to get back to the run game, and they want to take the pressure off of Sam Ehlinger. So in order to make him have to beat you, you got to stop the run. Again, I'm nervous about all of that with the moves that, have to be made this week due to injury. But you got to stop the run. That's the first thing. First things first. Then the next thing is you've got to be very sound and disciplined in your rush lanes, because you're not dealing with Matt Ryan, who was an immobile quarterback, who was a statue back there. You're dealing with a guy with some wheels that's not afraid to use them. He's a tough guy. He'll lower his shoulder, and it usually takes tough guys from college about 2 or 3 starts in the NFL to realize, okay, this ain't college. I'm not back playing against Texas Tech at Lubbock, running over a 5'11" linebacker. This is some real deal shit here we're dealing with. All right. You get your clock cleaned once or twice and you realize I probably should slide or get out of bounds. But he's going to be a tough guy. He's going to lower his shoulder a couple of times early on, because that's what he did at Texas. He's going to extend some plays. They're going to run some read option. They're going to run RPOs. We've got to be disciplined and we've got to be ready. This can't look like Daniel Jones all over again, where guys are crashing down, there's nobody scraping to the outside, and the quarterback pulls it out, and he's got free range to the outside for a big game. We've been really disciplined against read option this season. Really disciplined. We were disciplined against Jacksonville. We shut it down early. They said, all right, we won't do that again. We shut it down against Philadelphia. They said, all right, we just let Jalen throw. We don't want any smoke with that. All right. We've done a really good job. Tannehill tried the shit. No, to no avail. Fields tried it, and we really won't have that shit with him either. So we need to make sure that we're all over that, but also stay in your rush lanes. Stay in your rush lanes. Be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and rally to the quarterback, because he's a big dude and he's tough, and the first guy might not get him down. The next thing is you got to limit the explosives on defense. I don't see this team with the way that they're playing football. I don't see them consistently putting together 12 and 13 play drives without a mistake or two with a first-time quarterback starting. I don't see them consistently doing that. The easiest way to get beat is to give up a 57-yard, slant for a touchdown. And I wonder how Jack's going to play this. I wonder if he's going to be aggressive against a first-time starting quarterback and come and blitz him and try to have his head spinning. Or is he going to sit back in zone, drop as many defenders as he can, try to confuse him with different looks and see if he can't get him to try to throw into a tight window and make a play and pick him off. I wonder what Jack's philosophy is going to be going into this game. Clearly, the philosophy last week against Aaron Rodgers was rush 4, drop, play coverage, keep it basic. Let's make sure that we don't give up any big plays. I wonder if they're going to have a similar game plan against a Colts offensive line. We talked to Cody. Cody told us our offensive line is stunk this year. That was from Cody's mouth about the Colts offensive line. So if you feel confident that and we thought the Packers offensive line was going to be trash and we were going to be able to take advantage of them, but we weren't. So I don't really know what to believe. I just know that you got a guy back there that's going to be, in his first career start, there are going to be nerves and jitters, but once he settles in, he's going to be dangerous. They better be ready. They've got tight ends. That scares me. If he's looking for the tight end, that could be problematic, especially with no Cole Holcomb. Defensively, or offensively, rather, we have to do what they need to do, which is establish the run. Because it's like looking in the mirror almost. We're almost splitting images of one another in the fact that neither of us have the quarterback that we thought we were going to have at this point of the season. Neither of us have a quarterback that we feel confident putting the game on his shoulders. Both of us need to be able to run the football effectively to have a chance. Both of us need to be able to protect the football, not turn it over, not make any silly mistakes that shorten the field for the opposition. So Heineke can't do the shit that he did last week because this Colts defense is opportunistic. Unlike the Packers last week, who let us get away with a couple of bad throws that should have been picked off, this Colts defense will pick those passes off. They're going to be looking for the punch out. The best punch out artist in the league is back, like Cook Crack, and he's starving for a punch out. Gibson and Robinson and all of our guys have to be aware. At all times, 53 is lurking and he's dangerous. Hold on to the ball today. In this game. I really think that they're going to take Stephon Gilmore and they're going to shadow him on Terry McLaurin. If that's the case and Terry isn't able to get free, and I still trust Terry, but if he's not able to get free on Stephon Gilmore, who's 32 years old, Curtis Samuel is going to have to step up. Cam Sims is going to have to step up. The others, I'm going to call them the others. It can't just be the Terry McLaurin show. The others are going to have to step up, i.e., Scott Turner is going to have to step up. I'm looking to see if Scott Turner can follow up with an encore performance from what we saw last week, which was just beautiful. It was a virtuoso performance from a play calling standpoint. Can you do it again on a week that's not long, that gives you more time to be creative? Can you do it on a normal work week? Cam Sims, Amani Rodgers, J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, Curtis Samuel, the others, Dax Milne. Guys got to step up. I think they're going to try to take Terry away. The others, if De'Ami Brown plays, De'Ami Brown. If Logan Thomas plays, Logan Thomas. The others are going to have to step up. Offensive line, you're going to have to protect. They've got some guys. Yannick Ngakoue, who hurt Logan Thomas last year. DeForest Buckner. They got some guys. We got to protect. Heineke's got to take care of the football. When plays present themselves, when opportunities present themselves, he's got to make the most of it. Can't be thrown behind receivers. Can't be missing opportunities. If you got to run, run. Don't just stand there. Run. Special teams, hey, make your kicks, Joey Sly, make your kicks. But as we transition to the final outcome, I really think we're going to lose this game. I really, truly do. Because that's our move, is we go in expecting to beat a team like Indianapolis with the first-time starter, and we blow it. This is our move. But I really think that this is an opportunity. Every time a guest has come on this show and he's picked his team to lose, we've lost. And that team has won. I'm looking to break that jinx by actually acknowledging that fact, bringing it to light so that I shed light on that situation. I'm admitting, normally I agree with that person that comes on the show, and I think we're going to win the game too. I'm going in the opposite direction. I'm telling you I think we're going to lose, but I'm picking us to win. That doesn't make any sense. This season doesn't make any sense. But what I'm telling you is, from a historical reference, this team in this particular situation wets the bed. Every time. Unequivocally. I think they're going to do it again. But I'm going to pick us to win 22-17 for the sake of my sheet. I can't be safe anymore. The safe pick is to pick the Colts for me. I can't be safe anymore. I've got too many losses. I got to start winning some games. If I lose this game, I lose this game, but I can't be safe anymore. So for the purposes of my sheet, I'm taking Washington. In my mind, I think we're going to lose this game. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Score and more. What do you think is going to happen? I think we're going to win this game 22-17. At least that's what I have put on the scoreboard. I think we're going to lose this game. But 22, how do we get there? Joey Sly misses an extra point. Okay, but he makes 3 field goals. We scored 2 touchdowns. That's how we get to 22 points. And we go for 2 on the second touchdown that we score, and we don't get it. So, or actually, that's how we get to 22. All right, is you score a touchdown, you kick 3 field goals, that gets you to 16. The Colts have 17, right? So it's 17-16, Colts are ahead. You scored a touchdown, you try. So Joey Sly's not going to miss an extra point, excuse me. We're going to go for 2 to try to make it a 7-point lead. We're going to fail the 2-point conversion, and that's how you get to 22-17. There you have it. Score more. Leave it down below. Let me know what you think. Looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say, man. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy all the festivities. Be safe, and then we'll reconvene. Remember, 4:25 kick, so we'll be late night in this thing. All right? See you after the game. 4. The Command Post Game Show live. Hopefully we're talking about being back to 500 on the season. Fellas, you know what to do. Bring home the dub. See you then.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap. Hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20.